I like to divide the Kirby series in 3 groups: Kirby's Dream Land, Kirby's Adventure, Kirby's Dream Land 2, Kirby Superstar, Kirby's Dream Land 3, and Kirby 64 are all part of the Classic era. Air Ride, Amazing Mirror, Squeak Squad, and Epic Yarn belong in the early 2000s era, and Return to Dreamland, Triple Deluxe, Planet Robot, and Star Allies belong in the modern era. Most of the games in the Classic era have been remade in the past. Kirby's Dream Land was remade in Kirby Superstar, Kirby's Adventure as Nightmare in Dreamland, and Kirby Superstar as Kirby Superstar Ultra. The only games from the Classic era to not get any remakes are the ones made by Shimomura: Kirby's Dream Land 2, Kirby's Dream Land 3, and Kirby 64, which have been fan-dubbed as the Dark Matter Trilogy, since those 3 games follow the same threat and problem in the form of dark matter. Sadly, apart from Dream Collection on the Wii, there's no way to play these 3 masterpieces together in one place. Luckily, Nintendo has recently showed a little bit of interest of bringing back classics from the Nintendo 64 with Super Mario 3D All-Stars. But as we all know, HAL Labs is way better than Nintendo, putting actual work and effort into their games. So bundle that in with the nostalgia of the N64 era and the lack of way to play these classic games in modern consoles, and BAM! This beauty is created. Just imagine these 3 great games once again together, and not just re-released on the Switch, but entirely remade in glorious, beautiful HD. Hello everyone, I'm Dexys, and this is my Kirby Dream Game. So, what exactly would this title even be? Well, in short terms, it's an entirely remade bundle of Kirby's Dream Land 2, Dream Land 3, and Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards, each with some added bonuses. Now let's talk about the changes and additions made to each game. Kirby's Dream Land 2 and Kirby's Dream Land 3 are finally in 3D. Duh. All levels being a weird combination of Kirby 64's and Star Allies' visual style. Some levels will have an actual 3D plane like in Kirby 64, but others will not like in Kirby Star Allies. This also means that Dreamland 2 will finally be in full color, but this also means that sadly, Kirby's Dream Land 3 loses its unique crayon art style. But it's partially emulated because Dreamland 3 wouldn't be Dreamland 3 without its art style. Also, all games are now available in 2-player co-op, thanks to GUI this time sticking around since the very beginning. Talking about GUI, yes, he will be player 2 and will be summonable in all 3 games. This remake will also explore his origins, finally giving us a reason to his existence and why he is dark matter but good. His origins being revealed in a brand new 3D HD pre-rendered intro cutscene for Kirby's Dream Land 2, where during the first wave of the Dark Matter invasion, one Dark Matter attempted to possess Kirby, which then backfired almost immediately, where it got ejected as the lovable blue slime ball due to the negative energy of Dark Matter and positive energy from Kirby mixing up into a slimy Dark Matter, truly showing that Kirby does have infinite power and giving even more evidence on the Kirby is positive void theory. Obviously, this isn't GUI's canon origins, but due to the lore introduced in Star Allies and the fact that GUI is the only dark matter who is good, this is one of the only ways he could have existed. So it would be nice if they showed off his origins, whether it being like what I just explained or in another completely different way. I just really want to see where our precious little slime boy came from. Also about GUI in Dreamland 2, he will not be present in the extra bags, being replaced by a food item or a maximum tomato. And this will also retcon the female version of GUI, which will be simply replaced for a 1-up. Since I already brushed off the idea, yes, since it's a remake, it would have HD cutscenes. Maybe just not looking like the ones in Star Allies' intro, and more like the ending one, since they do look cheaper and, in my opinion, a bit better. Or maybe like the ones in Kirby Planet Robot, which look good, but not as high quality as the intro one in Star Allies. Obviously, all the cutscenes will be remade, some pre-rendered like the intros and endings for all games, including the mentioned brand new one for Dreamland 2, and the between world animations on Kirby 64, while others will be in-game cutscenes like the ones between worlds from Dreamland 2 and Dreamland 3. While Kirby music is always great, another thing this remake will definitely have is modernized remixes to all of these 3 game soundtracks. Some might be entirely new remixes, and some might be some already remixed tracks that will also be in this game. Hell, for some tracks we might not even need remixes. Just put the uncompressed tracks and it'll be excellent. Kirby music is so good that even if you play the original music from Game Boy or from the SNES, it's just good. So it's not 100% necessary for every single track. But I just want to listen to a new Dark Castle remake that isn't the one from Kirby Planet Robot, and many other great songs. Talking about the game's media, obviously this game will give us new renders, and you know how I feel about renders. New Bandit Waddle render! That's a new render. That's also a new render. That's a new render too, isn't it? Look at this new render! Look at that new render! Look at that new render! This way we might finally get some official HD renders for the bosses and other characters, because at this time this is the only official artwork for those games, and as you can see, they aren't that high quality. Since this game is set to release during this generation on the Switch, and since it's a remake in the style of modern Kirby, it will have something very unnecessary but beloved by many, including myself. This being lore, being showcased in the way we're all used to, pause descriptions, meaning that pause descriptions will be added to these games for the first time. We will finally have more useless lore in games that really didn't need it, meaning that questions we have for years will finally be answered. With this remake, we will no longer have to say that Wispy Woods is wearing a mask to keep himself safe from the intergalactic virus Dark Matter, because their pause restrictions will finally confirm it. We might finally know why Adeline came to study arts in Planet Popstar. We might finally get confirmation about Bandana Waddle Dee being the Waddle Dee from Kirby 64. We might finally get more evidence about the popular Dark Matter's negative void theory. We could get some information about Chiverstar. We might even get completely different stuff. The point is that it will be a no-brainer to get pause descriptions here, and if a remake does end up happening, it's obviously gonna be in there, and I'm all in for it. Now, no matter how good and how up-to-date a game can look, the most important thing in a game is the gameplay. And Kirby gameplay is always great, especially thanks to the gimmick of the series and the character, that being his copy ability, where you can do a lot of cool stuff. But in the original 3 games, you only have 1 move per ability, making it hard for me to choose whether to keep the extra moves or to only give them 1 move. And after thinking about it, I'm proud to say that they will have multiple moves, but some moves will be cut. The abilities in these games are Burning, not Fire, meaning that yay, the ability is back, but nay, there's only 1 move, being, well, Burning. Ice, which has all moves but Ice Skate and Ice Storm. Stone, which has all moves but can't walk around like it does in Kirby 64, which can now only be done when having Double Stone. Needle, which has all the moves but Needle Burst. Bomb, which has all moves. Spark, which has all moves but Thunderbolt and Lightning Strike. Cutter, which has all moves. Cleaning, which is only in Dreamland 3 and only has the sweeping moves and a vacuum, but Hal can add some more moves as well. And Parasol, which is only on Dreamland 2 and Dreamland 3, having all of its moves. These moves were cut because if they were in the moveset, they will make some animal friend attacks and ability mixes basically useless, since you can already do them without the gimmick. Talking about these gimmicks, the animal friends in Kirby's Dreamland 2 take note from their appearance in Dreamland 3. This time you can just hop off without them disappearing. And I think that's all I have to say about these little fellas. But I do have to say something about the mix abilities in Kirby 64. Since this is modernized, Kirby, when copying an ability, will be wearing their copy ability hats. But what about the mix abilities? Well, it's pretty easy actually. They also get hats. All the mixed abilities stay the same and most of them look the same. One thing Kirby 64 has that no other game has is Kirby using his body for some attacks. This will not happen in this game. He will use weapons, just like in every other game, especially the most modern ones, meaning that this monstrosity is no more. Instead, it'll look like this. As a matter of fact, I did ability hats for all of the mixed abilities, and I will quickly show them off right here. For Double Stone, he wears a boulder instead of a rock, and has longer horns. For Double Cutter, he wears a green version of his hat, which has the eyes angry and the wings on the hat are spiky, with the cutter blade being big and green. The color scheme is reference to the ability's color in Kirby 64. For Double Needle, he wears a smaller version of the Tot 3 Swiss Army spikes from his Kirby 64 transformation, with the hat being recolored orange to reference the copy ability's color. For Double Spark, he wears an atom-based hairpin. For Double Ice, he wears an alteration of the ice hat, keeping the jewel and headband but adding some minty leaves and replacing the ice with a snowball. For Double Fire, he uses the burning ability headband, but its wings are bigger to represent the phoenix he turns into with this ability mix. For Fire Ice, he wears a giant ice block which is endlessly melting, while wearing a mix of the ice headband and the fire crown. For Ice Cutter, he wears a little tiara to keep the ice skater theme. For Cutter Stone, he wears a mix of the stone and cutter hat where the top part of the hat is made of stone, keeping the signature cutter eyes, and has a brown brim keeping the horns from the stone hat. For Stone Needle, he wears the drill as a hat and uses it to attack instead of his hand. For Needle Spark, he uses an alteration of the Spark headband and keeps the pointy stick on his head. For Spark Bomb, he wears the bottom half of a light bulb as a hat, with an alteration of the Spark headband. For Bomb Fire, he uses a red party hat which is a reference to the bomb copy ability hat that was meant to be used in Kirby GCN, with some added little detail. For Fire Cutter, he wears an orange-ish red hat, and instead of a giant burning swords, he wields a giant cutter blade, like the one he wields in Smash Bros. For Cutter Needle, the cutter blade on his head is replaced for a bear trap. For Needle Bomb, he wears a black recolor of the needle hat with spikes in the place they should be in. For Bomb Ice, he wears Chili's hat and has Chili's collar as a headband to hold down the placed bomb. For Ice Stone, he wears the curling stone handle and just turns into the curling stone for the attack. For Stone Spark, he uses the Spark headband and has a rock on his head, which he uses to attack. For Spark Fire, he uses the Plasma headband, and when attacking, the fire on his head grows bigger. For Fire Stone, the volcano he uses to attack in the original game stays on his head instead of having to make it up before attacking. For Stone Bomb, he wears the heart helmet permanently, but still needs to cover out to not get hit by the explosion. For Bomb Cutter, he wears a full-body ninja suit with a cutter hat-based headband. For Cutter Spark, he wears a jello version of the MS/14S Gelga Commander type's head from Gundam, from where the double beam copy ability may be originated from. For Spark Ice, he wears the top part of the fridge, where he throws out the food. For Ice Needle, he wears an alteration of the needle hat, but has the tips of the snowflake around it, and an ice design for it. For Needle Fire, he has the regular needle hat, but this time on fire, and uses the needle as the bow while picking up a burning needle from his head as the arrow. And that's it about the three games themselves. Before I finish though, I want to add some things more. Since recently, Kirby games aren't just the main story, or in this case, main stories. First off, yes, this game will also have sub-games. The first simply being remakes of the ones in Kirby 64, 100-yard hoop, bumper crop bump, checkerboard chase, and for the first time ever, the scrapped rhythm game. Those being playable with Kirby and Gooey out of the box, Rick, Kine, and Koo when you start Dreamland 2, Nago, Pitch, and Choo Choo once you start Dreamland 3, and Waddle Dee 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 and Adeline once you start Kirby 64. The other sub-game being the return of a underrated classic released in between the Dark Matter Trilogy, the only original Kirby puzzle game, Kirby's Star Stacker, here being called Grill's Star Stacker Challenge. Mr. Star and Grill have decided to give their old friend Kirby a visit, and while they're at it, they decide to have a fun, friendly Star Stacker Challenge. Kirby and Mr. Star team up once again, and let the games begin. This sub-game is basically a remake of the original Game Boy title, but with some updated visuals, sounds, music, a new story mode, and some few changes. The modes being Story, where you progress through the game's short main story, competing against Gooey, Waddle Dee, Kine, Rick, Koo, Adeline, DDD, and Will in that order to win the Star Stacker trophy. Round Clear, where you collect stars to win Girls Challenge, with it having 5 difficulties, just like in the original Game Boy game. Versus, where you and a friend can compete against each other. Time Attack, a challenge mode where you try to collect as many stars as you can within however many minutes you select. And Challenge mode, where you eliminate as many stars as possible before the stack of blocks reaches the top of the screen. Also, sub-games aren't the only extra thing this game will have. The game also brings back the collectible info cards from Kirby 64 and their own menu in the main menu. Plus, there are also now info cards for the other 2 games, which are also in each game's goal game or hitting in the stage, whichever works best. This game will also have the arena, which here is split in 3, 1 arena per game. Once the 3 arenas are beat, you will unlock the true arena, where you fight all the bosses from the 3 games in one go. There will be no spice in difficulty, since I think that fighting all the bosses in the 3 games is a bit too much. And once you beat the arena and 100% the 3 games, you unlock the original mode, where you can play the original ROMs of each game. Now that's a cool 100% bonus. I don't think it would be a problem since these are really old games, and it's proven that Nintendo can emulate N64 and SNES games on Switch, while Game Boy games would also be pretty easy to emulate. And honestly, this wouldn't be a bother since, storage-wise, these would take nothing. Nintendo has some really good compression skills if Smash Bros is something to go off. And that's my dream game, Kirby Dark Matter Trilogy. I really want this to happen. This Dream Game series was made for me to kinda pitch my ideas for a Kirby game, but they are mostly fan-gamey. This one isn't. This one I genuinely want to see happen, and I know that many others also want this to end up being a thing. Sadly, all we can do is just hope. Hope that one day the top heads at HAL think about this themselves and make it a thing. I just really want to play these classics once more, with a modern fresh of paint. New visuals, new music, and most importantly, new lore. And to be fair, if it does end up happening, I know that it's on great hands. The folks at HAL Labs are always doing great stuff, and I'm super thankful for it. I'm also thankful for you watching this video until the end. Anyways, I won't make this video more longer. Thank you for watching, have a great day, goodbye.